All right, let's talk about something you've probably seen 1,000 times at a doctor's office. HIPAA. We're going to peel back the layers of that boring paperwork to show you what it really is. It's not just a form. It's a set of rights that gives you the keys to your own health story. So let's jump right in.
You know the drill, right? You walk in, they hand you a clipboard, you sign on the dotted line without really reading it, and that's that. But have you ever really stopped to think about what you're signing? What powers are you actually getting? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. So, first things first, let's talk about your role in all of this. Because HIPAA isn't just a bunch of rules for doctors and hospitals. Nope, it's really about what you can do. It's about giving you real, tangible control over your own medical story.
Now, the whole system revolves around this one key idea: protected health information, or PHI for short. Basically, if it's a piece of health data, like a test result, a diagnosis, or even a bill, and it can be traced back to you, it's PHI. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like your own private medical diary. HIPAA just sets the rules on who gets to peek inside.
So what are these big rights we're talking about? Well, for starters, you have the right to see and get a copy of your own health records. You can ask for corrections if you find a mistake, you can find out who's been looking at your info, and you get to decide who gets permission for very specific things. And, this is a big one, if you think someone messed up, you have the right to file an official complaint. And that right to ask for corrections, it's a really big deal. I mean, imagine you spot a wrong diagnosis in your file. That's not just a typo. A mistake like that could lead to getting the wrong treatment or even getting denied for insurance down the line. This right ensures your story is accurate, which is crucial for both your health and your wallet. And the best part is, there's a clear process for this. You put your request in writing, and your doctor or hospital has 60 days to respond. They can get a 30-day extension, but they have to tell you why in writing. This timeline is huge. It means your request can't just get lost in some endless pile of paperwork.
Okay, so you've got rights, but how do you actually give permission for things? This is where it can get a little confusing because you see all these different forms, but it really just boils down to three main types of permission: notice, consent, and authorization.
Let's break this down. The Notice of Privacy Practices, that's usually the little booklet they offer you that explains all their privacy rules. Consent is what you give for all the routine stuff, treatment, billing, and just the general operations of the clinic. But authorization? That's the heavy hitter. It's for anything outside of normal care, like marketing, and here's the key: it has to have an expiration date.
Yep, I'm sure this looks pretty familiar. This is your standard consent form. When you sign this, you're basically saying, okay, you can use my info to treat me, coordinate with my other doctors, and bill my insurance. It's for all the necessary day-to-day stuff that makes the healthcare system work.
An authorization, though, that's a whole different ballgame. Think of it as your special permission slip. If a drug company wants to use your data for a marketing campaign, or a university wants to include your case in a research study, they can't do it without your explicit, written authorization. This is a much, much higher level of permission, and you hold all the cards.
Okay, so just when you think you've got it all figured out, there's a pretty major twist. There are actually very specific, very limited situations where your health info can be shared without any of those permissions we just talked about. This happens when public safety is on the line.
And it's not some vague, open-ended rule. The HIPAA privacy rule lays out exactly 12 situations, just 12, where the need to protect the public is allowed to override an individual's right to privacy in a very controlled way.
So what are we talking about here? Well, think about things like responding to a court order, helping public health officials track a dangerous disease outbreak, or when they're required to report suspected child abuse. It also covers situations where it's necessary to prevent a really serious threat to someone's safety. It's all about trying to find that tricky balance between your privacy and keeping everyone safe.
But, of course, in the real world, rules sometimes get broken and data gets compromised. So what happens if there's a breach? What's the game plan when your protected health information gets exposed? Let's take a look. First, let's be clear on what a breach actually is. Under HIPAA, it's any time your PHI is accessed or shared without permission in a way that compromises its security. And look, it doesn't have to be some massive cyber attack. It could be as simple as an employee snooping in records they have no business looking at, or a clinic laptop being stolen. Now, when a breach happens, the clock starts ticking. There are very strict rules. No matter how big or small the breach is, every single person affected has to be told about it within 60 days. The real difference is about scale. If a breach affects more than 500 people, it gets serious. Not only do they have to tell the government right away, they also have to notify major media outlets in that area.
One of the absolute worst things that can happen after a data breach is something called medical identity theft. So for our last section, let's talk about what that is and, more importantly, how you can spot the warning signs.
Medical identity theft is a particularly nasty crime. This is when a thief steals your personal health info and uses it to get medical care, prescription drugs, or even surgery in your name. It's a double whammy. It can destroy your finances, and, even scarier, it can corrupt your medical records with someone else's health problems.
So how do you protect yourself? You have to be vigilant. You've got to be your own detective. Keep an eye out for any red flags, like a bill for a procedure you never had, or finding weird information in your health records when you check them. These are huge warning signs that you need to act on, and fast.
So when you boil it all down, HIPAA is so much more than that piece of paper you mindlessly sign. It's a whole framework of your rights and their rules, all designed to give you power over your own health information and protect your most personal story.
The main thing to take away from all this is that you are the most important guardian of your own health story. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know your rights, now that you know you can see, correct, and control your data, how will you use that power? What will you do differently? Thanks for tuning in.